Sweet, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. We all know from high school chemistry that literally everything is just energy vibrating at different frequencies, velocities, or amplitudes. Sorry, I'm totally messing myself up. All right, back to the show. But the entirety of creation can be seen as various phases of waveforms interacting in unendingly novel ways, and it is a trip in itself just to comprehend that truth. All matter is mostly nothing, just empty space. Can you believe that shit? And the part that is something is just energy moving to and fro. There are endless rabbit holes to fall down when we look closer at the interplay of different frequencies and energetics, and that is precisely what we are here to do tonight. But before I introduce our incredibly radtastic crew of panelists today, I want to tell you that Rogueways is part of the Eyes Open Network, along with Breaking Basic and Talking Nonsense, two podcasts you should also check out. And we invite you to join us in the Eyes Open Facebook group, on the rogueways.org website, or on the Rogueways YouTube channel. It'll be super badass to see you around. Also, I love you all so much, and I do this shit just for the fuck of it. But if you want to support what I'm doing, I would love to give you something back for it. So go check out the offers I have for you on my Patreon at patreon.com/rogueways, and feel free to kick a little something my way if you love the show or any of my other work. I appreciate you so much, and I thank you in advance, truly. So tonight we have a host of new panelists, which makes my heart joyous and bright. So let's get to it. First up, we have Jimmy McGee. Jimmy is a hep cat that knows a smattering about a smattering of topics and has a background in musical vibrations and harmonics. Jimmy is a father to 1 child, 3 pugs, and 6 cats, including Maine Coons and Bobcats. And he is also a badass and has even touched the shiny things at Carnegie Hall. Jimmy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Glad to have you. Next, we have Scott Hutchison. Scott has a ridiculous resume of badassery, including educating, speaking, coaching, and schooling people on self-wellness and energy, including doing so through his podcast, the Energy Rich Podcast. As if that weren't amazing enough, Scott is also a recording artist and a stunning photographer. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having us on. This is amazing. I've been looking forward to this for a week, maybe 2 weeks. This is great.
I'm so excited to have you here. Yes.
Yeah, it's coming through. All right.
Yeah. And we have Hannah Coban joining us tonight as the coolest ambassador to the wild and natural that I've ever met. When Hannah isn't tromping through high mountain waterfalls, collecting crystals, harvesting wild-crafted goodies to craft into homebrewed magical potions and tools, or blasting the chemtrails with her roof-mounted Orgon cannon, she is homemaking and attending to her beautiful family. Hannah sees what not many do and understands what not many can. Hannah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And last but not least, my longtime and dearest friend, a warrior of the heart since time immemorial, Harmony Fronterhouse joins us tonight. Harmony and I have been sussing out the darkness in the world and transmuting it since we can remember. She is a green goddess made flesh and a love made whole. If she's not gifting her skills to the wild world or the humans in her sphere, she's working some magic on the deeper levels of existence for the good of all. Harmony also just finished her first book. It was a super huge deal and an awesome book. It's called Birthing a New Paradigm. So go check that out. Harmony, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I am so grateful to be here with you and celebrating your birthday on this awesome Rogueways. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Woo! Yeah, this is a super special episode for that reason. So it's awesome to have you guys all here tonight. Yeah. And all of our viewers out there in the world. So we start with the pointless question of the episode, which today is, I'm wondering if you guys think there's anything nefarious or strange about looking at protons and other atomic particles in an atom as particles instead of as waves. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes, it reminds me of the slot experiment, the wave particle experiment that they did on, at least that I learned about on What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh, yeah.
And I find it really amazing that when a wave is observed, it can actually turn into a particle. And that's like actually what frequency and vibration is all around us. And then as soon as it's put through some kind of filter, like our lenses of our eyes or our hearing or any kind of our sensory inputs, then we are experiencing it in a different form. And I find that extremely fascinating. Anybody else have anything that they want to add to that?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead there.
Where did you hear that at?
What the bleep do we know?
It's a good
It's
movie.
a documentary. Down the Rabbit Hole
Okay.
is another way you can find it. It's very, very fascinating about how thoughts basically formulate our relationship with the perception that we have with reality.
Scientifically proven.
Yeah, I find it a really terrestrial kind of concept. I mean, the observance of the wave condenses it down to a particle, and it's a crystallization, a thought. It's now something that we can quantify. We can see it. We can feel it. A light wave, again, that's. I think it's just kind of science trying to push it into something that we can actually kind of use, as opposed to like a thought form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's almost unnatural in a way. Like you're saying, we're pushing it towards that. Like, we're forcing it into this into this way that we can measure it or whatever, when what it really is the wave. That's it in motion, right?
Yeah, I think Scott hit it right on the head, because that's kind of where I was going to go. Is, it's a way to quantify what we're perceiving more than anything, I'd say.
Yeah. So maybe not necessarily nefarious, but maybe like slightly unnatural, or just not quite as real, or maybe like more dishonest or something. I don't know.
Well, it's maybe heading towards the control aspect of it, and maybe that's how you approach the question. If it's a particle, then it is a crystallization. It is something that is bound. It's not unbound like a wave would be.
I just thought it was kind of a silly question, because everything's a wave, right? When you get down to it. So that's kind of as far as I go.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's how I feel about it too. Is I'm like, I get that there's like a purpose, and you can like use it, like Scott's saying, if you put it in a particle and you measure it, but it's not reality. It's kind of like,
we used to
the
put
point of that?
the idea that, what the Earth was flat, but I don't know. Never mind. I won't offend any flat earthers.
Oh, whatever. We can offend whoever we want.
Well, okay, so we used to have science that proved the Earth was flat. So it's like all this stuff that they say, oh, it's this and that. Well, you don't know. That's what you're saying. That's what you're calling it right now. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, everything's a frequency. Everything's a wave.
Like literally everything.
Yeah. I mean, you want to call them different little names inside of it. Okay. Have
Absolutely.
fun, but
that's the task of science, is just labeling and deciphering and putting it all apart. And
if you look
it's like, we don't need all that.
Is this a Rockefeller-backed look at doctors? So it's break everything down and break it apart.
Yeah, and then make it like it's harder to function in that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Interesting.
I think that's one thing that science also, what it's doing for science is showing scientists that it's results of their experiments are actually dictated by the outcome that they have predetermined that they think it may be. And so, it kind of brushes aside a lot of scientific experiments that we thought were truth or fact, and actually is like, well, if a different person did the experiment with a different mindset, then maybe it would come out differently. So that's a cool thing as well. So it's kind of proving the magic in a scientific way.
I mean, if you look for something, you're generally going to find it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what is science really, if it's so malleable and interpretable and subjective?
Isn't it the new religion?
It is basically just religion.
Yes,
I told my son I got pissed.
Let's offend all the scientists in the audience. All right, so let's get really simple with it if we can. Like, what is your guys' broadest view of this topic and of the energetics, vibrations, and frequencies? Because it's a lot of stuff, but how are you kind of approaching it? Who wants to start?
I'll give it a shot. I guess, the only thing I really can input on this ordeal is like the musical aspect of it. And I'm sure Scott probably knows just as much as I do, being a recording artist and whatnot and stuff like that. And, I just know more so the history of how it was weaponized, changed over time, and, various differences that I've encountered through my few experiences as playing some tunes off and on.
Cool. So you're coming at it mostly from the sound side of
the sound. That's where I'm more so at. Because cool. I gotta do a Warped Tour in 2010, and that was a strange experience. I'll tell you what.
What were you doing with the Warped Tour?
I was actually playing. I was one of the little pissant bands that got to play on the Ernie Ball. That got to play on the Ernie Ball stage.
Cool.
And like that, nobody came and saw. Like maybe like 5 or 10 people. So, but you got to experience stuff like from some of the more mainstream groups, and it was that's what kind of started getting me down that path of questioning everything on that aspect.
Oh, awesome. So sound is how you're approaching it, but it was also part of how you went down this path in the first place.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Wait, my thing muted out. I didn't hear the question.
It's basically like, where are you coming from, and from the like your broadest view of energetics, vibrations, and frequencies. Do you want to go for it, Hannah?
No.
Nope.
I wanted a minute to pull it up and think about it.
Sure.
What do you think, Harmony?
Yeah, I since I've been young, I have had a connection between frequencies and vibration and sound, and how it interplays with how I feel and how it makes my body feel, and how and then my disabled mother, when she became disabled, I started to look into different modalities of natural healing and started to explore different music that is healing, different hertz, 432, 528, different things like that. And then also the power of the thought and the frequency and how it affects our DNA and the activation of the different codons / the deactivation, depending on the different forms of thought that we are holding inside of our being. And then also the power to transmute frequency, and how we have the intrinsic power to basically run the programs through us, so we can shift those certain programs for humanity. And I think that frequency has a lot to do with that. And also I also work with sound healing myself, and doing crystal grids with people, and doing different kind of frequency work with different people. And everyone has felt a definite change on how they feel. And I definitely have felt very, very tangible energetics when I do this. And so it helps to bolster that feeling that I have, and the understanding that I have every time I interact with somebody in that manner. And then basically it boils down to like my feeling and how I'm processing these frequencies, and how it interacts with how I perceive those feelings. It's kind of a very kind of etheric thing to put into 3-dimensional words, but
yeah.
It's definitely something that I've had a passion for a long time, and I touch a lot about it in my book you were talking about, and also just in different YouTube videos that I do, and talk about power of thoughts and manifestation, and how frequency is interconnected with all that. And then food as well, and how food and herbs and essential oils and all that kind of stuff interplays with frequency and vibration. So I'm very fascinated with it.
Oh, I love that too. That's a little tangent that we could look into really quick, since we don't have it on the list of questions today, that like your food that you're putting in your body is all going to have, despite like the energetic vibration it might have as its natural state or whatever, it's also got whatever energy that it's probably carrying over from how it was treated, right? So like if you're eating a cow that was tortured as opposed to a cow that was like happy and frolicking in the fields of grass and eating healthy, that's going to get
Yeah, if you're digging up a plant to transport, or digging up your potatoes or planting them, I don't know. Plants are plants know what they're doing. They know their purpose. They're happy, and when you thank them, they're just like,
yeah.
Yeah. And when you harvest in gratitude, when you are harvesting and leaving an offering,
yes,
it's so important. Yeah.
yes, yeah. Mm.
Yes, I love it. Cool. Maybe we can come back to that later too, because that's like its whole own subject, even.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, really.
But cool. What do you think, Scott?
Okay. My thoughts are we have frequency and we have energy. Frequency is the information that we're requiring or observing or connecting with. Energy is the context to it. The more energy piled onto it, the greater the signal, the more we can actually bring in. So I view them kind of as interdependent, but the context is dependent on the energy that is being placed forward. Now, that said, it's not so much the message, it's not so much the energy behind it. I'm more interested in the consciousness that's actually sending to me, or what's the consciousness behind it.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
If we get into food for just a second, and I know we'll come back to it.
Let's do it. Let's get into it now. Yeah.
So I view food in a very specific way. If I have a carrot from the grocery store and I eat it, I view that as I'm merging with that consciousness of the carrot. I'm getting all its data. I'm getting all of its nutrition, all of its good stuff into me. In exchange, it gets to experience humanity through me.
Oh wow!
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
That's perfect, because humanity wants to kill you.
So
that's powerful.
So if I was to go to the farmer's market and get an organic carrot, that's an upgrade in consciousness coming towards me. That's a better relationship. If I was going to take that to the next level, I'd, maybe hold a seed in my mouth, plant it in the ground in my backyard, and culture that with some love and sunshine, and then sign that deal by eating it. That's a highest expression. That's an optimization. And that is a emergence of consciousness. Not that first carrot was bad or had anything less, but if I'm going to be in an optimal state and an optimization for everyone else, I've got to show up with the best possible ingredients that I've built myself out of. Yeah. And that's merging with the people, the consciousnesses around me that I get to select. And that's where I'm coming from with the energy around food. That specific frequency that carrot may have, the beta carotenes, all the micro and macronutrients, all the bacteria that it may contain. Some of it might be good, some of it might be bad. My body will figure it out.
Yeah,
if I take care of that first part.
Walk through my garden. You plant, you walk through the garden, you talk to them. You check them out, see how they're doing. Plants. It's plant life, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I remember play music to them.
Yeah.
Actually, they like that.
They love it.
They love it.
And my neighbors
on that tangent, with the energy, so you've got a frequency here that the Earth, that Schumann resonance of 7.86. Do you believe
not that anymore?
Oh yeah,
it's thought up
over like 120 now. Sorry.
Oh. Anyway, do you believe that has an effect on your carrot that you'd be growing as well?
I bet.
Everything.
Yeah. I think, like Scott's saying, like the more intentional you can be about selecting the energies that go into it, the more it's going to give back to you.
If we put our Bruce Lipton hat on for a second and we go with an epigenetics model, the environmental conditions that we grow in and that carrot grow in, and that's the broad spectrum of our existence, we definitely are going to have a difference in all aspects. Our body can handle 4 billion bits of information per second. Our conscious can only handle 4,000. And if there's a difference in our environment, our bodies will start to pick that up. There's no difference. The carrots, we have property at the near a major road and property behind the house. Things grow much better away from the pollution. They grow much better away from the busyness.
Yeah. The noise,
Yeah.
all the random people's energy that are kind of floating by.
Yeah.
That makes
That's
sense.
good. I mean, that's
I like also that a couple people in the group are saying, I think Kathy brought it up and maybe Chris brought it up, that if you say grace before you eat, like you're intentionally giving this like spiritual component to your food. And that I know I've read somewhere that actually has an effect that they can measure somehow scientifically.
okay. So remember we were talking about Dr. Emoto and his talking to
Emoto.
crystals. Yeah. And talks to the crystals and Yeah, you talk to your food. It's the same principle, really.
It is. Right.
Yeah.
So whatever structures it's affecting or however that's actually working.
Yeah, it's that moment that you take and acknowledge, and then you go, whew.
Yeah. And then you get that
Yeah,
back.
it's like creating a sacred space, you know?
Exactly.
It changes it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that also, I can throw up this picture really quick if people aren't familiar with Dr. Emoto.
You can look at a video that I have on YouTube. No, just kidding.
There's some of it that Harmony threw up in the group right before we started. So
another person has done these studies too, but I cannot remember their name. I was talking about it with someone earlier yesterday.
Are you talking about the rice studies?
Maybe that was
the
it.
rice?
No,
Oh,
the one they do in schools and stuff.
Yeah.
When we were growing our plants, we would every day. My husband would go out and he'd talk to the water. He'd go give it to the plants. No, another doctor or someone else did studies on this too, and I cannot remember his name. But yeah, they would do that rice one in school.
Yeah. Well, I've never learned about that in school. Like that wasn't something I learned about until recently. But now I see like everybody is replicating this data, and I don't know if they've done a specific scientific study on it or not. But it seems like pretty easily replicatable that you have your 3 rices. One of them you say good things to, one of them you leave alone, and one of them you say bad things to. And the bad one has just like the most disgusting looking like slime molds on it, way quicker than you would expect. And the one you say nice things to stays super good for super long. And I'm like, man, maybe.
Yeah, we did.
The one you neglect gets to be the very worst.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Oh, maybe I did it backwards.
Yeah.
Yep. You neglect it.
No, the
then
one
you
that's
just,
neglected is worse.
Yes.
The one that's neglected is
it
worse.
proves that
than
neglecting your children is worse than abuse. Yeah.
Yes.
that blew my mind. I didn't realize
Yeah, we
that.
did that experiment with the kids, and they were mind blown. It actually helped them with like using their words a lot better, you know, and they're like being more mindful with their words. So it definitely works, and it's very powerful.
Think about, okay, he does this with this water. How much water are we? So saying nice things to people.
Water.
Anyway.
Yeah, we are water.
True. So you say nice things to yourself and to each other. So wait, what does this teach us about like what we neglect though? Like if we're ignoring something in the world, like that, are we making it stronger or worse?
If you pull energy away from something, it can be tantamount to an act of violence.
Wow.
If we culture the field between each other, like I was told recently that your projection to me is about, you're responsible for 20%. My mind, my senses, my heart, everything that I am is constructing the rest of you, that rest of the 80%. So if you make a change to that energy between us, you do something violent, you do something outstanding, extraordinary, that will influence that field between us, and we will now have a different experience.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So we need to be very conscious of the energies that we are putting out there into that little field, because we could be inadvertently taking energy from it and weakening the people around us.
Oh yeah.
By accident, just with our stuff, or we could be building people up. And it doesn't have to be a conversation. It doesn't have to be a connection that we would normally have with our senses. You just have to be in the room.
Like if you see someone and you say, "Oh, you like their jacket? Oh, that's a nice jacket." I see someone in their terrible haircut. I say, "Oh, you cut your hair."
Yeah.
You know, that's yeah. You be nice to people around you. Be real.
I think like this keeps coming up in my life lately, this idea that those tiny connections you can make with people are so important actually, and that you can both gain something significant, even if you're just like make eye contact really quick and smile. Like just that with the people that you interact with in a day or that you come across in a day is like, that's like a revolutionary act in itself, maybe.
It is now.
It's something that's done selflessly without an agenda, and you use your soul energy to do it, and it's just that it could be the difference that makes the difference in someone else's life.
Yeah, I love that. So I just wanted to say something about where I'm coming from with this whole topic and energetics, vibrations, and frequency is that I feel like we're bombarded, like our senses are all this way that we're taking in all these different energies and vibrations. So we like seeing light wavelengths with our eyes and sound with our ears and whatever with our feelings. So all of our senses are the way we're interacting or we're receiving all of those energies. But then I think like it's really cool to me that we're doing that. We're taking it all in with our senses, but we're also able to create all of those things and send it out as well. And so I don't know, I feel like we're like this transceiver, and I think Harmony said something about transmuting energy, and I think that's part of why we're capable of that. So I'm kind of approaching it from that way too, which is not anything different than anybody else said. But let's talk about, or do we have anything else to say about food energies and that kind of stuff?
No.
We good? Let's move on to Tesla. This is like what comes up when anybody I think first thinks about this. So it's a fun topic. What do you guys want to get into with Tesla?
He was young. He was a hottie.
Hell yeah! If he was real, I mean, allegedly, some people think that.
Oh, good lord!
Just that everything.
I think Australia doesn't exist.
Yeah, I like Cat Earth personally. That's my favorite. All right, so what about Tesla?
He's amazing. Yeah, gave us some really good technologies that were taken from us. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Sorry, his whole mission was just to upgrade humanity's consciousness. It wasn't about making money. It wasn't about the whole Edison kind of connection. It was about free energy. Let's just take this world and blossom it and release and unbind the energy that we have. So we're not warring over stupid stuff. If you want to subscribe to the evolutionary model, if we've been here for 3 million years, say, and we're still having wars, we're still killing children in other places over sand and earth and resources, then we should fucking act like we've been around here for a while. We should evolve by now.
Amen.
Sorry for the F-bomb there, but
drop it whenever.
Yeah, we're the same as we were when we were warring with clubs. We just have better weaponry now.
Way better.
Oh, Tesla. Have you ever tried to read one of Tesla's books? It's like stereo instructions in French. And he's got these extremely detailed diagrams that it's just like looking at a maze.
Because he's not only a genius, he's like an engineer, and it's like a full foreign language.
He would imagine the entire thing in his mind, every piece of it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He's amazing.
Like, literally visionary.
And he would see things. He would see things. Would he see him in the sky? Because
he'd have like visions in front of him.
Yeah, and like some people blame him or whatever you want to say, he channeled or whatever to receive this information and whatnot, and whatever floated his boat got him there. I mean, he had a good vision, so obviously whatever information he was receiving probably was a non-malevolent being, I'd say.
Yeah. There's people who are like coming at it from the angle that because it's a vision, it's therefore like gonna be demons or something.
Yeah.
I think he was just a good soul that got stuck here for a minute and made his way out at the end. Because he just wanted goodness for people. He just wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And this world just chewed him up and spit him out.
I like that.
That was his vision. Yeah.
Was his death rate he had information, he had directions on how to build these things, but he split them in 5 parts, and he gave one to each government, to like, was it China, America, whatever the other ones are we fight. And because I think his hope was that none of them could do it unless they sat down and got along. Like the Russians are way ahead of us in some technology and stuff. I don't know if any of you heard that.
Wasn't it like that? Like in like, it was like 41 or 42. Like the war was just starting to brew up around then, and I heard something along the lines of what Hannah was saying. I mean, not in that extent of detail, but I heard, you know, a little brushing of something like that.
That's new information for me. I mean, I think it speaks to the type of person he was. I believe he was just a regular person doing extraordinary things. If you look at his humble ending, by himself in an apartment, not very many possessions. It's not the ostentatious kind of person that you would expect with a giant brain that he had. Things were more important of the maybe the more thought-oriented way.
Yeah, I liked what you said about like that he came to raise sort of our awareness or our consciousness on the planet in general.
Yeah.
You know, with what he was doing, and very much not a self-serving person.
Yeah.
Yes, he died. He was living in a hotel, and he had an affinity for pigeons.
Yeah, a pigeon as a lover.
Yeah, no, just pigeons, and he wouldn't. Every time he would enter a building,
one pigeon that he was like in love with.
Yeah, he said he loved it more than any other woman.
Yep, it's true. He said their eyes, they had a soul connection through their eyes. But you gotta like, I don't even know what that was. So like maybe it was presenting itself to him as a pigeon, but maybe who knows what it actually was. And you know, your perceptions, the way your brain can receive these energies. What?
I said you met my chicken.
Yeah, true. Harmony's chicken is a lover.
This one chicken, it follows us around. Yeah, it has a consciousness.
For sure. So, yeah. And I don't think there's any death rays, but I love that I love that he was able to figure out a way to get energy from the earth for free and then transmit it to people for free for anywhere without wires. Because Harmony knows this about me. Like I hate electric wires more than almost anything, and they're everywhere. So I'm constantly perturbed. But part of
that's my thing.
Yeah, part of my soul hurts because I can't have a world without electric wires, and we could have if his vision would have been carried out.
Yep.
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
That's so it's a constant.
Yeah. Yes. Like I like electricity, but I hate those wires.
Yeah, that's something that I had a hard time like coming to grips with as a younger person. I went as a child and trying to take pictures or draw and things like that. And just even looking at the landscape, there was all the wires messing up the scenery, right? And so it took me several years till I got actually over that. And I was like, well, you know, we have, in order to have power, you know, I can have compassion for all this and accept it and everything. And then I found out about Tesla and I was like, no, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? We had the chance to not have power or not have power lines and have wireless energy, and all was thwarted because of the greed and the selfishness of a few who wanted to keep their power. And it's just sickening. And now it's hard for me to have that same compassion for them and the power lines, and just have understanding for it. Now I'm just you know, so it's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, and there's something to that energetic effect as well, right? Like that we're still dealing with that.
Yeah, exactly. We're still dealing with it. Like, I mean, people know it's been going on for hundreds of years. People are understanding it, and maybe they're just starting to fully understand it, because it's like, come on, people, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, and you're like, yeah, you project what you see. Well, I didn't project like bombing little kids in Yemen. So
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about like the secret or whatever, the power of manifestation.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like, why is the world so fucked up if that's
Yeah.
true?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We
let's
call
talk
it
about
a
that
stage.
then.
We call it a
Well-
stage 2 in the clinic.
Because
The
people
world
don't
is
know how
built on-
powerful they are.
the world is built
Why
on
not?
polarities. We've got good stuff and we got bad stuff.
Mhm.
If we can just for a second accept that that is how it is right now, we can move into the next stage of our existence, which is realizing that we're stuck and it's us that has to change individually. If there is bad stuff happening in Yemen, we can balance it out with, you know, a community dinner where we live. That's a good thing. It's not a virtue flag. It's not a definitely does not answer for the atrocities that are going on. But if enough of us start doing that, we can start to see a change. You're seeing a change right now in Paris, and it's spreading throughout the rest of Europe. That's a massive polarity that's going on.
Badass, actually.
So the energy that's behind that, we're not going to see that from the mainstream media. What we're going to see is a cultured view of that. But if you ask the people on the street, which they don't do on the news, why are you doing this? Because they've felt enough. They've had enough. They want something better for themselves. Sorry to go political on you, but here.
No, I love
But
it.
No,
the energy
Go,
behind that, the
Frenchies.
consciousness behind that is what we need to really look at, because that's what you're going to see. Well, I have a different view of the American populace. My mom lives in Tucson. Full disclosure, they're super conservative, and they love Donald Trump. And they don't like the people marching on the border and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? This is not even the issue. The issue is taking care of what's going on in your own heart and understanding what is actually right. The system is rigged. You need to just accept that and take control of yourself. Yes?
Amen.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel it.
A lot
Like
of times
I
it
genuinely
feels like
believe
it's a
that
no,
your self transformation is the key to transforming the world. And
Yep.
I think part of what people don't understand about the things like The Secret and manifestation is that you can't just have a thought in your mind and have it become reality. Like you have to actually literally, like you attract what you are. And so you have to literally be that thing. And so if you're not that thing, you can't fool the universe. You can't be like money, 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 money.
And I can't just sit in my bed and be like, oh, riches, have them
Yes.
rain from above. What?
Right. You have to be that thing. So if you're thinking of it and you're focusing on it, you're saying it, you're
Looking for
projecting
it,
it out,
you'll find
you're embodying it, and you're acting in alignment with it, then you're going to attract it. But it's like, yeah, you can't change the world by not being the change.
Yeah, and it's understanding the why behind it. If the why is specifically for you, like I'm gonna make $1 million so I can have a Ferrari. But if I can make $1 million, that's I don't know, that's 100,000 meals that I can purchase and give to homeless people. You look at the war expression, how much money and versus world hunger. We could wipe out world hunger in a weekend if we just retest some of those resources.
Yeah, it's
We could probably do it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the why. The why is the most important thing. And if it's for yourself, it'll fail. If it's for many, it's going to happen. It'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like, were you meant to have that Ferrari, or were you meant to actually, have a different destiny where you were, living a different existence where you didn't have a Ferrari? There's different, paths that we've already kind of contracted in a certain way, and lessons that we have to learn. And if, that Ferrari isn't necessarily the way, or maybe even you are supposed to have a Ferrari, but it's not the $1 million that gets you the Ferrari. It's certain actions that you take along the way, or certain coincidences or synchronicities that occur to bring you to that final destination. And we're too attached to the $1 million that we can't see all the other open doors in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you get the Ferrari and then you crash it.
Yeah.
Die.
Stepping over a 20 looking for a $100 bill, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta be the Ferrari.
You can't separate yourself from it.
I like that though.
Pete the Ferrari. All right, should
Be
we
the
talk
water.
about
Be the Ferrari.
should we talk about Wilhelm Reich?
Right?
Oh yeah.
This is good stuff. I mean, I feel like Reich is like another version of Tesla. And we have some of the same
Sort of.
patterns, right? Like we have this genius who was kind of ignored by mainstream, and then his work is oppressed.
He wasn't ignored. He was ridiculed for after he stopped working with Freud.
Oh wait, so
Oh, he's crazy because he doesn't want to work with Einstein. He's crazy because they had different views on sex. On the, I can go really on and on about it actually. So maybe I'll just be quiet.
no, go on.
Okay, so so he started researching. Reich was from kind of the same place that Tesla was from, and almost kind of in the same time. 1856 and 1897, Croatia and Ukraine.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah, and so Reich is half Jewish. His dad was really uptight. He walked in and he saw his mom having an affair with somebody, and he was really confused. So he went and he told his dad, and his dad flipped out on his mom. His mom killed herself.
Shit.
And
Drama.
yeah, and so then there was a war starting. Because he was older and he was doing work, and he got on he made the last ship off to America. And there's a story that says, oh, and the guard saw him and let him go, but I don't know if that's true. But so he comes over and he starts work in New York, and he's got these orgone boxes, which are layers like say plywood, steel wool, metal siding, silk. Cotton. It's an inorganic and an organic, because an organic substance pushes out and the metal makes it, reflects it back in. And so he was making these, and he was talking to people, and he felt that the cause of like all of our problems, like except for a few cancers, all our sicknesses and problems were really related to our sexual life, because when you orgasm, he would call it orgone energy. You get a release of energy, and you feel relaxed and you're fulfilled and you're happy. And when you close off from emotion and you armor yourself, think about that. Relaxed right now. Are you totally relaxed? Oh,
kind of.
Were you like? Did you just relax a little bit?
I relaxed when you said it. I was kind of tense. No.
Yeah. And so, and Freud's like, whatever, if you're a kid, you want to have sex with your parents, which I always thought was gross. Weird.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. And they had different views. And Freud was like, no, it's not the cause of all problems. So he quit working Reich left. And then the press, this lady wrote a letter, strange case of Wilhelm Reich, and I don't know, she was a very strange woman, had something out for him. And so everybody, was making fun of him. He wasn't taken seriously. But meanwhile, he's like, he's helping people. They're getting better. They're happier. He was doing this, and when people are happy, they don't really care about going and bombing people, do they? They don't really care about what you're doing. They're happy, they're fulfilled, they want to be with their family, they enjoy life, so they don't really want to kill people. So, that ain't gonna work out too well, is it? So that had to go.
So he's talking about orgasms for happiness?
What he is saying is, the energy that is created, and it's in like everything. He would start with dead grass and water, and that would create bions. It would create life. Like this blue color. Like I see them as these tiny little circles, and they have legs around, and they're blue, like a bluish. Like remember when the sky was blue?
Yes,
and,
remember then.
Yeah, and he would notice, is when people would have a release. They would be visibly better. And then he had counseling with them, or talk with them. And when they could get down and be honest, did anybody remember hearing about back in the time where they're like, oh yeah, and they had the women would go see the sex doctor twice a week or something. And
Yeah, and they would like masturbate them. I mean, it's not masturbating, but yeah.
Yes, and that is the kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's kind of what Rice was doing. And then they kind of twist it. And even now, if you look him up, he's a pseudoscientist.
Yeah.
But so he kind of moved away from that, and he started with the healing stuff, with the layers. And people would get in there, and like these people with terminal cancer, they got a lot better. 3 scientific studies, but they did die. But like he was a true scientist, and all this stuff worked. And he sent his stuff to Einstein because the orgone accumulator, you could build the exact same size box, all that, put them in the same room, same temperature, whatever, and the accumulator would start to get slightly warmer. If it's made correctly, it's creating energy. And so the temperature around it will be a little warmer. And he went with Einstein, and he went over there, and they did it, and it showed it, and it happened. And so Reich goes back home, and 3 days later, Einstein sends him a letter. He's like, oh no, this is nonsense. I'm not gonna work with this. This can't be proven, da 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 da. And Einstein's assistant, his secretary, was a Russian spy, which no one knew until however many years later. But it went against Einstein's
secretary.
What was her name? Susan something, I can't remember.
It's always the secretary.
But it supposedly went against his law of thermodynamics or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't see how they. So Einstein didn't like that.
The whole reason they couldn't disprove the effects, so they were like, well, it goes against the laws we decided were real. So
in fact, they proved it every single time.
That's crazy.
It violates the law of thermodynamics. But
because it gets
what
warmer.
we're dealing with is the closed off system of the scientific mind, or the scientific hive mind, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
We are in an open system. There's plentiful energy. We just got to be at a different consciousness level. We're at the first tier of consciousness. Everything is crystallized. Everything is a concept. Everything is bound energy. Second tier, everything is unbridled.
Everything's
Things are coming into the system, always coming in.
Multiple interacting waves on multiple interacting levels. What's that word? Co-penetrating or something?
Sure.
Co-penetrating. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So because science doesn't even take into account the possibility that all that empty space is like ether, and there's some energy there too, right? And then it also goes back, Scott, what you were just saying, to that idea that we're like crystallizing the proton and the neutron and the electron. They're all little particles, when in reality they're waves that are moving around. Like it's kind of the same paradigm. Popping in and out of our existence, popping in and out of our realm, universe of thought, you name it. If we are here right now, we're all virtually in the same space. You're in your own little private universe right now, and somehow through technology we've able to bridge the gap. And there's, I don't know, let's say thousands of people watching us right now. We'll say that. We'll say that.
We'll say that. If that's the case, our thoughts are able to transmute this simply with a $500 laptop. What are the chances that we can bridge the gap to another cosmos, to another dimension, simply by just cranking up the volume of energy a little bit? Maybe if we pump it up a little bit, we can start to bridge that gap. That's exciting.
You were saying something about ether, Lindsay, and that when Reich stopped working with that and he started working with his cloud busters, which are extremely easy to make, and he would get UFOs. And if you read some of his son's book, Reich would see it as these things were coming, sky critters, and coming from somewhere else. And they would come fly all around the cloudbuster, and he was using them to get rid of them. So like,
He
I
was
mean,
getting-
there's things that are in the atmosphere that live in our atmosphere that which we don't see. And they're like, you're talking about, you know, another dimension. And some of them I think fade in and out. And some of them are, I mean, it's right here, but you can't see it.
Yes. Because we can't
Right
see
here.
that when we're
Just
talking
like
about
that one little, like Scott was saying, that one little vibration off. And I can't see it, but I know it's there.
yeah, we have the visible light spectrum and we have the visible sound spectrum, or the hearable sound spectrum, whatever. Our senses are getting all of this energy and wavelengths, but we can't see or perceive all of the wavelengths that there are. So of course there could be something in our sky or in our anywhere that we can't perceive. It doesn't make sense to assume that we would perceive everything that there is.
Yeah, it's arrogant and obscene and simple. It's absurd to think that.
Well, that's like our whole scientific system is arrogant and obscene and very self-serving and very limiting.
Yeah,
So,
and that is why at the very end, when Reich was doing this and UFOs were coming, he was calling the Air Force. He was telling what's happening, and eventually his lab got raided and they threw him in jail. And a couple months before he was supposed to get out, he died of a strange heart attack.
Oh.
So he wrote tons and tons of books. A lot of them are online, and yeah.
So you're saying though that he was attracting those beings by using his cannon, his Oregon cannon, but he was also able to get rid of them?
It was a cloudbuster.
A cloudbuster?
And he was in the desert and he was trying to make it rain.
Oh, right. And he was successful, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And he was noticing, his idea was that a desert was it was dead. And why was it dead? And so he was out there and he was searching for, and he was trying to draw in rain. And the idea was that the ether flows in an easterly direction. And so he's like working with this, and he's trying to get the currents to go a certain way, and these UFOs would show up, and and I don't really remember what they did, but they would be showing up and he would see them, and like, I'm sure you've seen it, like you look at the sky or something, there's like a ripple there, and those things would show up. And yeah, I guess I remember reading in his son's book something about fighting them off, which I don't know. I guess they would come and eat cannon. I don't know. Yeah. But I know that you can make it rain.
Make it rain. You can call UFOs.
You can clear up chemtrails, get a steel tube, put a mirror that reflects out, tape it to the back, strap it on the top of your car, drive around.
Dude, Hannah, post that video you have of doing that in the group after the show, and so people can see it, because it fucking worked. It's awesome.
It does. It is amazing. I have to drive down to Seattle and do it, but then way offshore, then you get a boom of it and comes in. But it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that video because it gets pretty dry around here.
Yeah, and I'm like, I spent $20 on this YouTube. The mirror was $2 at the store. I'm like, fuck, why the fuck wouldn't I? Fuck, I'm not,
Yeah.
But no, oh god, not $20. Oh.
Super easy. Hey, do you want to show us some of your Oregon so people can see what it looks like? Since we're talking about Reich and Oregon. Orgonite or whatever.
Oh, beautiful.
So make noise so people can see it.
I don't know. Oh, yeah. So there's It's kind of reflecting, and you can't really freaking see that. I should have brought more over here. There's, I mean, that's a pyramid, and you can see the crystal on top, maybe. And then you got metal, and then you've got an organic, and you got metal, and you got an organic. And because I messed up one, and then if they always have a Tesla, call it a Tesla coil, or a Tesla, it's a coil. If you don't know what a Tesla coil is, I don't know, I'll draw a picture of it. And something like that, and it directs the energy. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, people have done tests, and how I feel that what it does is like pulls it in, the metal tracks it in, and it comes out the top, and it's cleansed by this crystal. I mean, my husband, I started making it. My husband's like, okay. And, and so he got 2 glasses, same glasses, water, put one piece of orgone in one, the other one in nothing, put it in the freezer. Next day, you can see there's a vortex in the one with the orgonite in it. So
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
Pretty awesome.
I mean, these are decorative ones, but you know, like the hockey puck ones you see. Yeah. I don't, if you guys have ever seen them, sometimes they'll call them tower busters, and you can make it with like a silicone muffin mold. Like they come about that big, you know, you just put a coil in it and the crystal. Actually, quartz, clear quartz, is an amplifier of EMF, because if you look at your phone, it has a lab-grown silica quartz crystal, because it amplifies. You want smoky quartz, you want black tourmaline, kind of want something dark, or green, fluorite. Can't think of them right now. I mean, you think about that, you know, what is a darker, a green amazonite? So that's something I've noticed, and I don't know if that's done purposely or if just through ignorance. But I mean, you can have a coarse one; it's great, but just don't put it by your computer. Don't put it by, you know, put it like in the room with nothing in it, by your plants. Nothing in it.
Yeah.
So it's anyway.
No, I love it. That's awesome. No.
Well, it's
Thank you.
dangerous, and I think people should know.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, it's awesome how much you know about it, and that you make your own, and that you're able to show people it too while we're talking about this. Does anybody else want to throw in ideas about Wilhelm Reich and his work for orgone?
Yeah, I found it fascinating that he named it orgone energy, because it's like the same thing that he's talking about is chi or prana, the life force energy that's all pervasive and all around us all the time. And the reason that he named it orgone is because, like Hannah was talking about, it is the energy that you have that is released that is measured when someone has an orgasm. So it's the same kind of energy and that's why he named it orgone energy, and the orgone devices as well. It's pretty interesting.
That is cool. It's funny. This is like a unintentional theme on the show lately, is like the value of the energy of sex that you can create. I love it.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's distorted so much in the social media, not just social media, but in the news and social
everything.
setting.
Everything. They're taking away the sacredness of it, and it's just you'll go fuck. Yeah.
All the sacred parts of our chakras, they're distorting them.
Yes.
Well, it's the energy of creation. It's if you look at the energy behind war, that is something completely different.
Yeah.
There's
But it's interesting that isn't Shiva the creator and the destroyer?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Hindu?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, destruction is a part of nature, and it's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with destruction. Like, something has to be destroyed in order for something else to be created. Like, the tree drops its leaves and they rot in the ground and they give nutrients back to the soil. And, you know, like, that's part of the cycle of things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with destruction, but I think there is something wrong with, and I don't really know like where I'm going with it or how to get to it, but there's something wrong with the intentional destruction, especially of life, just like senselessly, or especially for a self-serving purpose.
Like destroying it just for the sake of destroying it.
Yeah.
Because I think is what is,
I mean, there's something wrong with that energy. Like, I don't know that, I guess it's natural because we're natural beings and we're doing it, but there's something wrong with it.
I think it depends on your view. I mean, if you view a populace as just a bunch of meat sacks with souls installed, well, we're just going to recycle those. They'll come back. Don't worry about it. But from our perspective, I want to say people that maybe have cracked open the soul energy a little bit. The soul is all important. The soul controls all of that. That controls the bioenergy. It controls the upper mental, the lower mental, all that stuff. we are, in my opinion, recycled dinosaur poop with a ghost installed.
Yeah.
So what's more important? Is it the soul? Is it the body? Is it the bioenergy? What is the control mechanism behind all this? Is it the consciousness? Is it fifth dimensional probability? Is it the soul creator? Sure, these are bigger questions. I don't know if we want to get into that right now, but
oh, I love that. And
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's consciousness is everything. Like, I don't think there actually is anything else. And I think that's why it's so important to get like to the root of all these, like to the root questions about energy and vibration. I think it does like come back to consciousness as primary source
yeah.
for me. I don't know what other people think.
I like that there was one episode that Greg had on. The fella talked about the universe blinking on and off at a frequency of about 1 trillion times a second.
Yeah.
And when the lights are on, we have consciousness, we have matter. And when the lights are out, for that minuscule amount, we're just down to consciousness.
Yes.
So if we want to bridge the gap between universes, like pop up in another realm, all we need to do is just match our frequency, match our resonant energy and frequency to that specific spot. And poof, we're there.
You make it sound so easy.
Yeah, how would we match our frequency to a place we'd never been?
Well, that's just it. You are there already.
Yeah. You are.
If you're
Yeah.
infinite possibilities and permutations of yourself, it's just here. It was explained to me it's called the epi exchange. If there's enough energy in that field between this realm and the next, you should be able to just pop right into it. But it's how you're organizing your own energy in this realm that is the key. I don't know how many of you love yourselves unconditionally. Myself, I usually hate myself moment to moment.
Yeah.
But they say, oh, no, you got to love yourself first. You got to have gratitude for everything you do. And I've always found that just really weakened me because I found it disingenuous.
Yeah, you gotta honor the sadness and
Yeah.
like, wait, that's fucked up. I can't just be, oh, well, let's look at the bright side. Well, there's a dark side too.
Yeah, but if,
You know, it's okay
if there's
to look at
another
that.
me,
You can't stay there like wallow in it.
Well, that's like that
That's
thing
hard
I was
one.
saying about like you can't fool the universe. If you actually have sadness or guilt or self-hate inside of you, you can't lie and say you don't.
yeah.
But like I think the goal is to turn it into something positive and loving genuinely.
That's right. So if I'm super happy and amazing in another realm, I'm going to reach out and try to claim myself and bring me into that realm. However, if I'm in this realm and I'm having trouble manifesting enough energy into that field to make the gap, I've got to figure out how to get enough energy in this realm. I mean, that's clearly it's resourcefulness, not the resources that I'm lacking. So to do that, I have to just stay within my true nature, and that's the self-reflection that we need to do to be able to bridge those gaps.
Yeah, I like that. Like there's like every major religion or spiritual movement has something to do with like becoming more conscious or connecting more with your consciousness or like rooting that truth more concretely like inside of yourself or like holding that energetic vibration on this plane or however you want to describe that. I think that's key.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's not about the Ferrari. It's about it's about who you want to become. Tony Robbins. You guys, I don't know what your feelings are. Tony Robbins. I personally love him. He says it's not the goal; it's who you become to get the goal. That's the most important thing.
It's not getting the Ferrari; it's being the Ferrari.
Who do you
Yes.
have to become
Bring it back.
being the Ferrari?
I think that's very true. Yeah. What do you do to get Ferrari? You know, you're just some asshole nobody wants to even talk to.
Right.
Right. So, well, let's move on to sound and sound healing. And Jimmy, do you want to start us off with what you have to say about that stuff?
Yeah. You know, a lot of stuff we encounter nowadays, musical-wise, is tuned at a 440 hertz. You know, this is some base knowledge, and but a more natural frequency is the 432.
What
And,
makes it more natural?
It vibrates with the Earth's frequency per se, and there is a ratio to it. Pythagoras found it way back when. He would take a piece of string and he'd pluck it. He'd take that piece of string, put it exactly in half, pluck it, and it'd be a fifth higher, which is the next step up.
Is it the phi ratio?
It's well, you can't really. It's not even a pi or phi ratio in that sense. It's just
A fifth.
yeah, a fifth in musical standards, you know, and it's a more natural frequency, and even clear back like what was it, 1700 something, 1713, it was proposed to have like the 440 hertz when they made the tonometer. Oh, who was that? Shibler made a tonometer. That was the first way they were able to figure out tuning and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's been weaponized as far back as 1700s. And you got people like Giuseppe Verdi, who would go off of some French physicists who proved that that was a natural frequency. What's his name? Anybody know? If you know that French physicist,
Yeah, yell it out in the group.
starts with like what is it? It's like a B or something. No. It's Xavier. Who's French? Who's French to pronounce that?
You got it.
In the churches, used to not let
Canadians.
anyone have the sheet music or whatever. They wouldn't let you have access to the music there. So you couldn't read it and go play it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like most concert orchestras are tuned to 432 to 435, and you got symphonies that have even like larger variants of well, it's kind of off. It's a little higher, 441 to 443. So it gets you more agitated, more upbeat, you know, stuff like that. And the Nazis figured that stuff out more so. They kind of honed in on that because with their esoteric business they had going on there, and they figured out that the 440 hertz made people more lethargic, made them more distressed, I guess you could say.
Huh. And more apathetic, or like?
Yeah, that's a great word for it. But the Americans had it first institutionalized in like 1920s maybe, of keeping on the 440. So, but you know, the Nazi Party started in America about that same time.
Yeah, because didn't we start with the flag salute was the like?
Yeah, the Sig Heil looking thing. Yeah,
that came from here.
About the same time is when America institutionalized that with the American Federation, whatever that group. Kind of, it was like the predecessor. It's like the League of Nations to the United Nations, basically, in a sense. For musicians, and they set that up in America and standardized it, but the British didn't pick it up till like the 50s. And now you hear it all the time. And where I could lead with this is in my experience playing music for live crowds and talking with some, you know, mainstream bands that were larger. You know, you hear this myth that they tune a half step down or whatever to make your music sound better or to get the audience more involved. Well, they're more so tuning to this more natural frequency of 432. So like, say you go to a concert and you're like, man, that sounded so good. It sounded better than the album. Well, that's probably why, is because your album was recorded in 440 and you heard it played live in 432.
Wow. Well, that is pretty cool. So like, do you know, do many people intentionally tune to 432 now that that is coming out? Does anybody know?
I mean, I've heard of people doing it. Like in '75, the International Standards Organization had to reiterate that the tuning was 440 because so many people, after the outburst of music from the 60s and stuff, and they were honing in on whatever, everybody was getting back to their natural state. They had to reiterate that your tuning was 440. So I think that knowledge has kind of always been there. It just hasn't been really portrayed to the public. And in my opinion, that's why you don't hear so many people listening to concert music or live played classical music, is because most of those still tune to something similar between 432 and 435.
I've heard they did studies. Yeah, I don't remember how long ago. I read this some couple places. They did studies and they figured out whatever level for whatever it was, it helped people, made them happy, da 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 da. And then they went up to whatever you're saying, 340 whatever, and it was more irritating and agitating. And so that's like what the base of all music is now. And like if you listen to the new music.
Yeah. So this is why I hate Cardi B.
And I mean, it's like it's designed to constantly irritate you.
It works.
Precisely. Like Tibetan monks, their little singing bowls they have, going on. Those are, I don't know, that they figured out how to make them. They all tune to the 432.
Wow.
So like you buy one of those, you're more than likely getting something that's naturally tuned to 432 hertz.
That ding we just heard was 432.
Right there.
I don't actually know that. It feels good though. What were you going to say, Scott?
Okay, so our pineal gland is incredibly sensitive. It's full of crystals. There's rods and cones on the inside. And when we go to a church, a venerable experience happens. We hear this wonderful music, or we go to a monastery. We hear the chanting, the great standing waves are set up. If they're at a specific frequency and we're in the right spot, that cathedral, that event, it'll start to vibrate that pineal gland for us.
Yeah.
And we can start to have an experience. So fast forward into the change that they made up to 440. Yes, is that the right frequency?
Yes.
That is now taking all those frequencies and shifting them slightly out. So we're not getting a full activation. We're still getting maybe some of the pleasurability out of it, but we're not getting that deep-seated that we would get hundreds of years ago, sitting in a chamber somewhere and having that pierce our soul and open us up to something greater.
And they know that.
That's my theory. Yeah.
And they know that. I mean, they've done studies on, like real mainstream studies.
That stuff. The fellow that's been posting the Cymatics stuff on the page there.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect base example, because if you were to take that same test and play it at 440 hertz, those designs that would be showing up would be so much messier. I mean, they'd still be vaguely there, but not to the perfection and degree that you see them when they're played at 432 hertz.
So they wouldn't be as distinct. They'd be more like blurry almost or something.
Yeah, kind of like you're looking through like a crusty window or a foggy window or something like that.
Interesting.
Because it's only one step. It's 8 hertz away, so it's one step off, but it's just enough to make that much of an issue.
And if it's doing that to those, if we can see like that structure that isn't created as crisply, then obviously, like we talked about, our bodies are mostly water, and we're like on our cellular level, we're taking in this musical vibration and we're making messiness in ourselves. Of course it would be agitating,
Oh, absolutely. And that's where you get these people with their binaural beats and healing tones and stuff like that. Some I know we haven't got there to that point yet, but that's they kind of base off of that standard there. Rather than being on 440, you want to maintain that 432. So like an A in that same thing in your middle area, your A would be tuned to Well, that is an A. So, like, say you were playing a guitar. Let's make it a little easier. You tune your A to 108 hertz rather than 110.2. And it's an exact round number. All of these numbers that you would tune your strings to are round numbers. And it's also known as scientific tuning.
Interesting. So what about those sound bowls that we know about and other like methods of sound to heal? I know Harmony, you use that, don't you?
Yeah, they work on the different solfeggio frequencies. So the different bowls work on the different hertz. So you have like 432 hertz bowls, and then you have some 528 hertz bowls. So it kind of goes with the different notes, how they are on different octaves.
Yeah, each pitch, going off of what she's saying, each pitch would increase or decrease by 108 hertz. So like you have 432. Yeah, 108.
Yeah. So each bowl is tuned to a different pitch.
108 is repeated and like all over the place. Like it's embedded in all of these old myths and all of these sacred teachings. It has a lot to do with the planets and their ratios to each other, whether you're talking about their
The
rotation.
sun and moon.
Yeah, like it's everywhere. It's like 108. And then there's a Gnostic teaching that you have 108 like incarnations to kind of like get it right before you just like start over again. So it's so weird. That's weird.
108
Up
paths
to
of
9,
Dharma.
the ultimate number,
Terrible.
I guess you could call it.
What were you going to say too, Harmony?
Oh, I said in the 100, there's 108, the different Buddhist teachings of the different 108 karmas and the 108 teachings of Dharma. And then what he was saying was absolutely resonant as well.
That's a trip. So then
It's amazing.
it makes me think too of what we're talking about.
And then the
sound.
9.
Because 9 goes into it?
Yeah, because he just said
Yeah.
8 plus 1 is 9.
Yeah.
And so it's the number of completion.
And so is 432 equals 9.
Oh, I see what you're saying. 108 is 9. Okay. Oh, and 432 is 9 too.
Yes. And like if you take all of the frequencies that these pitches equal up to, like, you got your 432. Well, you take a triangle. What's the area of a triangle? Like this, each side of an equilateral would be 144.
Wow.
It's 9.
Yeah, 9.
And then you can do that with square. You can do it up to a hexagon, I think. Maybe I don't know. I have to think about that.
Kind of like the 9 times tables. All the answers, if you add them up, they equal 9.
Yeah. And it's something like that. And I think you can do it up to a hexagon with those shapes and their angles and perimeters will equal to the frequency.
That's a trip. 9 is one of those numbers that you got to go watch that video of the number 9, like the magic number 9, and then the Beatles song you can listen to after that. Just like trip out on the number 9 because it's a crazy number. And I was like the secrets of everything hidden in it, I feel like. But I want to talk about too when we're talking about sound waves and healing, and especially when Scott, you were talking about like being in a temple or a church and having this like singing going on and all the positive effect of that. I feel like you can still create that today for yourself if you do certain chants, right? Like that's the point of chanting, is creating that sound wave, and that sound wave has a direct effect on your energy and your mood and your body.
Yeah, because if you're willing to sit there and do that right there is you're increasing more into yourself, and that would make you feel better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the sound itself has information in it, and that you're putting that into you're directly affecting your body and your mind with the sound wave itself.
Yeah, and playing music as well, whether you're playing it or whether you're around other people playing music. I've been going through a lot of stress and things lately, and I went to a powwow, and the drum was so healing. Just hearing the drum and the dancers and the sound of the jingles, and I just felt so renewed and healed afterwards. And just all those different examples. I'm sure we all have our own.
Yeah, well, this came up on the episode yesterday with Michael Wan too, and it's something that I just love is that if you're sharing this musical moment with people, so your heartbeat synchronizes. So there's some of these vibrations we're talking about have direct effect on our surroundings. Physically happen. It's not just like this woo-woo, fanciful sort of idea that we have. It's like those wavelengths are literally affecting the things around you. You're synchronizing your heartbeat. Like we're electrical creatures, and you're like controlling an electrical organ.
And you know what's interesting? Okay, before we had radios and all that, people would sing. They would sing all the time. My grandmother sang all the time. Her grandmother came over. Her mother came over and covered wagon, and people just sang. They sing all the time.
And we sing anymore. And when we sing, we sing horrible bullshit songs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe you.
That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I also think I was talking with Claude from the group about this the other day. There's that Taco Bell's canon or whatever, and it has that we hear in like all these songs all of the time. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like over and over again in pop songs. We hear the same exact progression over and over again. It's like every single song you can find it. And I'm just wondering, we were wondering, like, is there some sort of programming going on? Is there a reason why we're seeing it so often?
There
what's the effect
is.
of that?
I think it wasn't. I saw a podcast about that, and there's like, I think it was in Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. And there's this. That's why pop is popular, because it follows like a 1, 2, 3, da da da. You probably know.
Probably invokes some form of dissidence, huh?
It does something into your brain, you know, and you're just like da 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 da. And that's why it's popular.
It's like it's almost meant to disassociate yourself, you know, from yourself. Because it's so generic. It's, you know, a good word for it is it's meant to nullify you.
Yes.
Like alcohol, huh?
Yeah.
Like spirits.
Yeah.
Remove you from yourself.
Disconnect you, for sure. So then I also think about like the military uses music as a weapon. So whether you're talking about like they'll encourage troops or whoever to listen to like death metal, or so like really specific songs too that they'll give for them to listen to, that'll put them in like a more of a violent mind state before they go into battle. And then they also use it, if you look at like you can see it in The Men Who Stare at Goats, when he, like towards the end, he finds a room full of like detainees that are being tortured with these like bands around their head that are putting sound and visions into their eyes. And you can also see it in real life in Guantanamo Bay, where they're using this, and they're using music basically to torture people. And so then I just think about like the songs that we are listening to and that we're meant to listen to in pop music are being used as weapons against people as well. And we're like voluntarily doing that to ourselves.
Katy Perry has a video where she's all, I'm a strong girl, and she goes and gets in the Marines. I mean, movies that have anything to do with the military in it, I mean, the military isn't going to allow so much. Like, you remember, did you ever see the Edward Norton, the Hulk? I mean, the military had to say, okay, we're going to let you put this in the movie because that's what we're going to let you see.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what they have that they're not letting us see.
Yeah.
Well, a public example of torturing people, or I guess using music as a deterrent, was I think it was New Zealand. They were having a gang problem, and they started playing Barry Manilow over loudspeakers, and it reduced crime in just a matter of months.
What?
Wow.
That is so fucking true.
Over troubled water.
I'm not sure if it was New Zealand, but it's not on this hemisphere. But they played Barry Manilow over loudspeakers, and it drastically reduced crime.
That is blowing my mind. So then, like, was Barry Manilow engineered to have that effect on people? Like, it's like the soma of our
that's what I'm kind of curious about. Or maybe it was just they were thugs and they didn't want to hear that stuff. I don't know. You know,
they just mellowed out.
What a trip.
Yeah,
you know, the LRAD, long range acoustic device that they have, if you watch the thing with Standing Rock, it was a huge thing, and they bring it out, and anyway, that shoots out a frequency or whatever that is the same level as the human voice. So basically, they're like nagging right at you, and like it can make you go deaf and make you run away. I thought that was funny and interesting.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. Even so, I don't know if you played with your phone and tried had Siri ask Siri what the song is playing. It uses the app Shazam, and it looks for the carrier wave that's embedded within all music now.
That's how it does it.
To identify it. So they've been using that in media for years. So you'd get a little device in your house, and the Nielsen ratings company would know exactly what you were watching. You wouldn't have to program it in. It just knows because it's listening for the commercials and it's listening for certain cues within programs.
Yeah.
These things are always on.
What do they call those? Subsonic?
Yeah, subsonic. So, but that carry information. I listened to some podcast a long time ago where they were talking about alien consciousness actually coming through television and radio broadcast, and that's how they entered your body and took you over. It was awesome. I'm like, oh, what did I just watch on the X-Files?
Yeah.
Are breathing that in, the smart dust?
Yeah. So can I relate a little story? Can we go back a little bit to that?
Yeah. Do it.
So I played in a rock and roll band in my 20s, and we were quite serious. 3 hours a night, 5 nights a week, and then doing shows on the weekend. And it got to a point where, as we were playing within our syncopated existence, that we knew what the other band members were thinking based on what was being played, a look, all this information was being able to be transmitted to everyone. It's kind of like when your mom gives you that look. You know that you're in trouble. But we were, having conversations without saying a word. We were still playing. It got to a point that I was able to close my eyes and envelop myself in the color of that specific song. And it wasn't until recently that I started realizing that if you check the spiral dynamics kind of hierarchy, the type of song that we were playing was matching up to those levels of consciousness that people were displaying. So look up spiral dynamics. It's a great way to kind of code yourself where you are on this evolutionary path. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So the takeaway was that we were focusing on songs that were of a higher order without us really knowing it. And those were the ones that were doing better in terms of audience participation and reaction. It was kind of cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So it brings to mind that we have higher capabilities that we don't tap into, that we easily could if we understood better the sort of science of vibrations and energetics, I guess.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I lost where we were at. Did anybody have anything to throw in with? I guess we were in sound in general.
Yeah, where Scott was going with those subsonic sounds that Nielsen picks up.
Oh yeah.
They use those in various forms of movies. Like they got action movies. They'll send out subsonic frequencies to get you hyped up and more into the movie. Horror movies to create more anxiety for you. It's in all, like you were saying, all forms of media, commercials, everything.
So, and when you're saying there's like a carrier of something, what were you saying that was called, Scott?
Sure, a carrier.
Carrier wave, and what is that?
So if you imagine, you remember the old modems we'd have to dial out. There's our fax machines still work on that. So imagine that is hidden within that spectrum of information.
In like a subsonic way,
no, it doesn't have to be subsonic. It can be in that. You just never notice it because we're processing, the content of the song, the drums, the guitars, all that stuff. But there could be a little digital imprint in there that we aren't recognizing. But with the correct technology and the correct algorithm, it's able to filter all that stuff out and look for that specific signal. So
crazy.
it's much in the same way steganography works. You can put a JPEG out there, but it'll have embedded information. If you have the correct codec on the other side, you can pull out that information and throw away the picture. Same idea.
Yeah. I just like makes me wonder like how that's being used, and like Jimmy was saying, it makes you more, they're putting it into like action movies to make you more excited, horror movies to make you more scared. So like what other ways is it being used?
And
Well,
for
here's
what?
the thing. I don't surf, and I don't skydive.
Safaris?
But the end of Point Break, I wanted to do both of those things, and it wasn't because that's crazy cool. There was something else going on with the content of that movie. A lot of this stuff, it gets put out, and we don't realize it.
It's like when you leave a spook movie and you're paranoid as hell. It's you know it's fake. You're not scared of the dark. You're not scared of monsters, but
we've been
you
coded
still have this
somehow.
feeling.
We've been touched on a baser emotion, maybe a primitive level that we can't really quantify because our logical mind is still racing with endorphins.
Yeah, well, and there is other dimensions, and sometimes they fold in and out, and sometimes there is things there.
Sure.
Saying.
See, I have a theory with the whole music is, with this huge explosion of electronica and stuff like that. What better way to hide these sounds? Even one, like Scott was saying, ones you can hear, because there's so much going on in that music. But I've noticed if I ever listen to it with one of my friends or something like that, and they're playing this mainstream dubstep or wub wub, whatever you want to call it, you get entranced almost. It's like, and not in a good way.
It's been going on for years.
Stupid.
Play the Beatles backwards, you get Paul is Dead and all those different things.
Yeah.
Are we smart enough consciously to be able to perceive that? No, but subconsciously, which is very powerful, maybe we are picking that up and flipping it in our mind and being able to play it back.
Yeah. If you look at reverse speech, like if people are like Paul Oates, I think his name is, does reverse speech analysis, and our brains are apparently always coding what we say in order to make it say the truth backwards at the very least, even if we're not telling the truth in the regular way we're speaking. But then if we are telling the truth, we're saying the same thing forward and backwards like that. If that's true, that's an incredible capability of our mind. And if we can do that, I'm positive we can hear reverse, like in real time, subconsciously, like you're saying, and that's affecting us. So, I don't know, that's incredible.
I've heard of that. You can look for on YouTube.
Yeah, if you guys haven't looked into reverse speech,
Paul what?
I think it's Paul Oates, Oates. I could be wrong. I am often wrong, but especially with names and specific details. Concepts I got down. So let's move into and it relates to sound, but what about the qualities of the planets, vibrational qualities of the planets? Does anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah. They're there.
No,
I'll let somebody else.
I know that the planets have, like, if space is real and if we're in space, apparently we recorded the sounds that each planet makes, and they all have their different tones, right? But then they also seem to be, like we were talking about earlier, related to each other in a way that is mathematically interesting. And if you compare it to musical notes relationship to each other, that has a parallel as well. So I don't know. Does anybody want to go anywhere with any of that?
I seem to remember Rudolf Steiner talking about octaves and the heavens as well. That might be one little future, nugget for people they want to research. Honestly, I hadn't even considered it. I'm still not even sure I exist.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe that could be its own episode later. So there's one, Rudolf Steiner, and then I think Johannes Kepler also talks about the music of the spheres. So if anybody wants to look into that. All right, let's move on then to vibration that went through the whole planet on 11/11. Anybody have anything for that?
I found that to be extremely fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I heard some interesting news that CERN was actually shut down and it was right around that time. And it could actually have been because CERN has a frequency effect on the Schumann frequency of the Earth, that having it shut down, it actually was allowed the Earth to like reestablish its frequency, kind of like a shiver.
Oh.
And so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then there's also, it's 11/11, so there's a lot of group meditations, a lot of individualized meditations, and sending ripples of love and gratitude and unity throughout the earth. So I think it could have been a culmination of any of those things, or it could have been something entirely different. But it's definitely very fascinating.
There's
I
a
like
whole-
those ideas.
There's more than one CERN.
Sorry, what?
There's more than one CERN.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
there's three. Yeah, there's
more than
three
one
of them.
particle collider. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder. So Harmony, you're saying it was shut down on that day?
Short.
What was that?
Or are you saying that CERN was shut down on that day, on 11/11?
I'm not sure what day it was. Todd had told me about it, and he said it was last month sometime. And so I'm wondering if maybe it had something to do with that.
It was shortly before, and to kind of go where you guys were going with the quartz, they had shut down recently to put some quartz doodads in their particle colliders to get higher energy outputs.
Huh.
And they did that like 2 years ago. And and as she was saying, it does affect the Schumann resonance, and it affects our magnetosphere. So I'm with her. I completely on that theory. Like that shutdown had a lot to do with that massive ripple through the Earth.
I'm just going to show people really quick what it looked like. So this is a picture of the visual of the wavelength that went through the entire planet, and it was very strange. Apparently, because it went through the whole planet, it's not often that an earthquake or anything else they know of that would affect the planet seismically would necessarily do that. And then the way that it did it here, as you can see, it was very I don't know the right word.
Yeah,
it
is
just
it
is
going? Is it a
balanced or equal.
spiral, or is it
Looks like a
going?
spiral. It looks like almost like DNA or something.
Double
Like
helix.
It looks like a phi ratio.
and you can see how there's like layers of it too. So there's like those dark centers, and then out just off kind of on a tangent to that are the little lighter, and then even lighter beyond that. So it's like I don't know. It's a pretty cool visual representation of it.
Look at the trace spacing number on there. That's wonderful.
What do you mean? Oh,
Yes.
nice. True. 3.33.
Magic numbers.
Yeah,
So-
and but that spacing on there, I see that from where it gets largest to right where the tip of that last little black tail in there. I wonder what the differential in that is, because that's almost 1.6. You know, you look at a dragonfly wing, that's on the phi ratio.
Yeah.
The helix patterns, which are on a phi ratio. So it's quite curious.
Oh, that's
looking
so
at that.
interesting. So that, and then their thing about it was like, oh, this isn't anything we know, has
Nothing
never
to
had
see
this
here.
effect, but it's still probably an earthquake. It's like, so you've never seen this, but you assume that it's something that you have seen before. That's
Move along. Nothing to see here.
yeah. I just thought that was really interesting. And then bringing up the quartz, putting in the quartz into the Large Hadron Collider, Nassim Haramein at least was saying that maybe the propagation of this wave throughout the world was having something to do with the like location of crystal deposits throughout the world. Like maybe, so if it was the Earth kind of shivering to wake up, maybe she used her own crystal deposits to sort of keep it going. Just a thought. I don't know.
I like that idea.
I'm gonna go with that idea. Just
Yeah.
make it true.
We'll go with that timeline, right?
Right.
Maybe somebody was ringing the doorbell here.
Ooh. They were like, "Hello, can you hear me? Coming in."
Maybe somebody got tired of their shit and broke out.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they created something with AI and tortured it. Now it's loose.
Now it's like, fuck you, I'm taking over the crystal deposits of the planet.
You know, I
Because
was
actually computers use quartz as their processing right? So why not? Oh god. Oh, I'm sorry. I've had it on Scott's video this whole time. My bad. Everybody, I just wanted everyone to really know.
Was I picking my nose again?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about cymatics. We brought it up before, and Jimmy was at frequencies of cymatics will be clearer or less clear, but yeah, what are cymatics? Anybody want to explain it?
Sound resonance.
Sound resonance expressed through physical
into geometric shapes.
It's
and
a
patterns.
resonant frequency.
I
If
should
you
have
want
got
to
some pictures of
quantify it
that.
as something.
Oh, God, a friend of mine did a video on Facebook with sand. Make
So
the, yeah,
So
those like
amazing.
beautiful, crazy, circly, you know what I'm talking about.
Geometric awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, where they blast the speaker to the sand and then it vibrates and
Yeah.
then turns into the different shape.
So
Yeah.
I think-
Depending on the resonance.
I mean, and I've talked to her, she's a real person. She's not, I've talked to her on the phone.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, there's this band that actually does this cymatic, like amazing fire and water and all this different kind of show where they use the different musical instruments and hook them up to different things and like the
that's
fire
cool.
goes and the different patterns of the water and the different sand and also it's really cool if you put
Super
cymatic
cool.
music in the YouTube, you could probably find it.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And it kind of shows how it's like another scientific demonstration of magic and the thoughts and how different resonances actually do affect form.
Yes. Well said. I love it. Well, so there's
I'm not so
someone-
nervous anymore.
that person in the group who we can't remember.
You froze.
I think that they might be on a podcast that we all know of soon. Maybe. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that. I don't know. We might be hearing more about cymatics from Claude and friends.
Ah,
Yeah. So I love
Nice.
that idea though, because it's not just sand, but
Yeah,
just
you
some
can
sort
do
of,
it with
like foam or something.
you can do it with fire. Oh, it's so cool with fire. Like you can do it at home. You fill a little tube, like build a little metal tube, and that's closed on one end, and put a rubber diaphragm on the other. Drill a hole in it. Put some butane in there and start it, and just tap the little rubber diaphragm, or put that frequency to the diaphragm, and it'll make that fire just jump around. Or you can do it with multiple holes. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's that group that does that. Maybe they have a fancier method of doing that. But, that's just like a little at-home experiment you can
I
do.
think
with
they
it.
do the same kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's now that you're saying that too. There's one where they have the water like pouring out of a tube, and when there's different sounds coming through it, it'll like make it spin tighter or faster or whatever.
Yeah,
in different patterns, too.
ways. Yeah.
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 That's pretty cool. If I had like infinite time, I would like make a cymatic band. Pretty rad.
Yeah. That'll be the next chapter.
All right, so then let's finally round this all off with our thoughts as vibrations. What do you guys want to?
Vibes, man.
Are we still here?
What? Yeah.
Okay. Well, thoughts as vibrations, thoughts as a carrier wave. I'm of the opinion that we're receivers of thought. And if thoughts are a wave and not a particle, I don't know. I think that the best way to describe what I'm talking about is we are an attenuator. The more energy that we put into our brain, the better the thoughts that are going to come into us. You talked
Like a
about
radio
having,
station.
yeah, like non-local. Maybe everything exists as a wave above us, and we're just bringing that in at will based on our energetic profile. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So our thoughts aren't necessarily coming from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that too. I believe thoughts are things, and then we kind of dial into them like a radio station, and depending on where we're at in our frequency level depends on what kind of thoughts come into our body. And sometimes when certain thoughts are an opportunity to shift.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's part of what the magic is that you can start to be more aware of your thoughts, and you can control better, or I guess, yeah, control better, yeah, allowing to be in your mind if you want thoughts at all. But I think your thoughts are one of the tools you have to directly affect your experience, reality, or maybe every level of reality, however you want to describe that as well.
I always thought, if you're listening, who's talking in your head?
Yeah.
And I do think some of our thoughts are not our own, because I know that there's these other dimensional beings that we're like the Sims or something. We're like pets, and they feel through us, and they make our lives go the way that they want us to go. So
if we let them, right? Like, do you think that we have,
if you think about it, you're like, who's talking if I'm listening?
In your mind, yeah.
In my head.
Yeah.
And like, like if you're doing something and and then all of a sudden you get pinged. What is terrible? Oh God. Fear, whatever. Well, where did that come from?
Here's like one more way.
And I think that goes back to frequency.
Make your area a little safer then? What do you do? And like what Scott was saying, yeah, you start with you to try and make it better, right? Because you make this area better. Well, then I go over there and I make that area a little better. And you try and keep that stuff from going in your head.
Yeah. I think one more way to like look at that you can experience directly in any moment is to say, like, a thought will come into your mind and then it leaves, right? And what's left there? You are. Like another thought comes through and it leaves, and what's left there? Well, you are. Like the thoughts that you've had over your life have changed dramatically. At one point, maybe you were Democrat, and maybe now you're Republican, and maybe now you're anarchist. Those are all just thoughts coming through your mind, but that's not you. You're still here, right? They're all gone. I think it's similar to what you're saying, Hannah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of goes back to the frequency of like how we're interacting with the world, and how that is kind of playing with how, I forget kind of spaced out what I was saying there. It'll come back, but go ahead. Oh yeah, the discernment. So discernment of those frequencies when they're coming in. So realizing that when the like devil and angel on your shoulder, like when the one is telling you to do something and you realize that frequency usually has a end where it's not so benevolent. And then other frequencies you can kind of recognize, okay, that's my higher self. That's my guides, because every time I get that frequency, every time I understand that, or get the voice in that sound or in that feeling, depending on how you perceive, that's how you can further interplay with the world on that level, is understanding, okay, well, that's the devil, that's the angel per se, for example, but I don't really see it in the devil and angel, more of an example that other people can kind of understand, but it's right. So many different levels. It's not bipolar like that. It's more very interdimensional.
Well, and you have like you're saying more. There's going to be a variety of sort of characters and flavors, and you're going to like tune to the frequency that is the most aligned with what you want for yourself.
Yeah, and then knowing which one is what. Like, okay, knowing that, okay, when I feel that may not be my authentic self, my higher self, and my guides guiding me. That may be something that's trying to pull.
Yeah,
is it just knowing that discernment?
Is your feeling coming from your heart, from here, or is it coming from your stomach warning you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it
And knowing
hereditary
those
data,
different.
or is it something authentic that you are receiving?
Yeah.
Will you say that one more time,
Mhm.
Scott? I did not hear you.
Sorry, is it hereditary data, or is it something cultural, or is it authentic thought that you're perceiving at that second? My good friend Tony Robbins, he did a little thing at an event that I was at one time, and he went around the room and he asked, "Okay, what's your biggest concern? What's your biggest problem?" And everybody, like he said, everybody think about it. And he goes over to a lady. He says, "So what's your big problem?" She goes, "Money." And he looks at the rest of the crowd and he goes, "Who else is having money problems?" And 99% of the crowd put their hand up. So is that your thought, lady, or is that everybody's thought? Does that belong to you, or does that belong to time, the ether, to hereditary or a cultural condition? Is that really you? Is that your biggest problem?
Yeah.
Could that be quantified in the global collective consciousness meters that they have all over the world?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's something that we all experience, but it's not necessarily us. I mean,
Yeah, that's a powerful thought.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Maharishi effect. You know, when there was these global meditations and people sitting down with real intent and in groups, it amplified so much that it did sweep waves across the earth in consciousness waves, where the rates globally of crime, of all sorts of things, were dramatically lower in those moments and in the following moments of these Maharishi meditations. And then that's why they called it the Maharishi effect, because it's kind of like the butterfly effect in that respect.
Oh, wow. What does Maharishi mean? What is it?
So the Maharishi, he was I don't know exactly how to describe him. He was a spiritual teacher, a yogi. I guess he was a yogi, and he talked a lot about the power of thought and resonating with your highest potential in those thoughts, and did a lot of like group meditation work. And through that, they found that the seismic earthquakes throughout the earth had shifted. All sorts of things had shifted during the times of these global meditation, group meditations.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. I'll send you some information about it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Look up Dr. Hagelin. He's from What the Bleep. He talked about
Hagelin.
Hagelin. Yeah, I think he's a quantum physicist. He did a bunch of studies on Buddhist monks on meditation, and they talk about the global meditation. So they dropped crime rates in Washington D.C. for a brief period of time with a group meditation. They want a global meditation, a global meditation day. It is interesting stuff. He did brain scans on monks, and how it was working was they would do the scan, the EEG, and they would see brain activity in a normal person, a little bit here, a little bit here. There was no cohesion. Once they started working on monks, they saw this cohesion, like a skull cap of lightning come across
Activation.
their activation. What that was doing is literally shielding out some of the centers, that pineal gland for sure. It was causing a great deal of interference, I think. Or I like to think of it as amplitude, to be able to pull in more. So they would look at their sense of creativity, their sense of accomplishment, their happiness. And after meditation, it would linger for days on end. The more they practiced, the better it got. So there's all these new meditation apps out there, and they're basically taking and placating people. Buddhist monks have a different form of meditation where they're more active. So
Yeah, I mean, they're able to set themselves on fire and just sit there.
yeah,
You know, it's some
It's
dedication to making yourself aware and at one.
It is
All right.
amazing
Yeah,
what
that's not using some app on your smartphone.
Yeah.
Putting in some work. Sorry.
Use the app in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that practice though can get you into that state so much quicker, and they like find that monks can do that like really quickly after they've been practicing so long. But like us, if we start meditating, it's harder for us to get into those states because we haven't practiced as much. But like you can do that. Anyone can do it, right? It just takes that practice if you want it.
I don't want it.
I don't want it. All right, well, let's wrap this all up then with what are your final words of wisdom that you want to share for the listeners at home?
No words.
No, I can start us off if we want.
Sure.
I really liked this. This idea that was brought up yesterday on the Michael Wan episode that he brought up, that if you tune a piano perfectly, I hope I don't fuck this up. Sorry, Michael, if I do. If you tune a piano perfectly, and let's say you hit the C note, like middle C, all the other C strings will vibrate with it. It's called sympathetic vibration. And so I feel like you can think of that as the same with yourself. Like if you tune your body and your mind and your heart exactly as you want, then your vibration is going to go out into the universe and you're going to get back exactly what you are. But you have to put that work and that practice in order to tune yourself correctly, or to how you want. You tune yourself the way you want. Who knows? Correct is a subjective thing, but it's something you can choose and control. That's what I want to leave people with.
Beautiful. I would like to share something that has really been resonant for me for the past several years, and that's don't focus on what you don't want, and really think about what you do want and who you want to be, and not as much like saying, oh, I want to be this person, but actually embodying it, like I am this, and focusing on that. Or like if there's a saying like a worry is a prayer for what you don't want. So make sure that, you know, if we're all thinking about the world that we envision instead of the one that's, then that will come into fruition, and really feel it and embody it. And, you know, it's time to be our greatest versions of ourselves, and it's time to step into our power. So, thank you, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you.
And all of the rest.
Words of wisdom, Jimmy?
Don't listen to shit music.
Nice.
That's about
Seriously, it's powerful. It's a really good piece of advice. What do you think?
Make
Hannah?
your own music, yeah.
Yeah, make your own.
I really appreciated what everybody had to say. Thanks for having me on. I wrote down some stuff, and if I find links, I'll put it in the group. And yeah, I do agree with what Harmony was saying, you know, and when people are happier, they have a higher vibration. People like to be around a higher vibration. Sometimes some people have a much harder time to do that. I have made myself smile because I get really bad depression. So I think about the world and what's going on, and I feel helpless. And so I force myself to smile. I've talked to my neighbors. Like I know their names even.
Like me.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's what Scott was saying is, you know, yeah, it starts there. Yeah, you know, I used to go volunteer at the food bank and stuff, and that stuff, you know, vibration means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but you feel people's vibes. But when you're pushing out, then the bad doesn't come in as much. And yeah, I think if you're gonna make the world a better place, yeah, it starts at home. You know, not yelling at your kids and such.
Nice.
Locking them in closets.
All right, Scott, bring us home.
Thank you so much, everybody, for having me on tonight, and thank you to everybody who's watching in YouTube land. There's a couple things I could say, but really, if you want more energy in your life, if you want to just come up from energy poor, maybe to energy neutral, or maybe up to energy rich, claim it, but do epic shit for other people. Okay, that's all you got to do, and you will just have the most amazing energy, better outlook towards everything. Last night I hosted an event for 700 people. We fed 700 people last night.
Wow.
Cost them $1 to come, but we had 28 turkeys done up. We had an army of about 200 volunteers, and we fed 700 people. I feel
That's
amazing.
beautiful.
I'm super tired from doing that, but I feel really good. That's my sense of community and happiness and family right there. So do epic shit for other people.
Yeah.
I'll leave with that.
I love
Even
that.
if even if it's you say, oh, those are cute shoes. You know, you think about that. Someone has said that to you, and you're like, oh, you know, it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Feel good.
Raised your vibration.
I think
Yeah.
we should like get t-shirts made for the group that just says do epic shit for other people, because that's a rad tagline.
I like
I
that.
love it.
Nice one, Scott. All right. Well, that was your analog, concentric, electric dose of wisdom, according to Scott Hutchison. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Jimmy, thank you for being here.
And thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity.
And Harmony, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And also according to Hannah, thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks, you guys. I learned a lot from all of you.
Fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. If everything is vibrations and energy and motion, including you and all you've ever thought, said, done, or felt, then it is crucial to understand more about how energy vibrates and how it interacts in this realm. Can you heal yourself with the right application of the right vibrations? Can you heal the world? Can we power everything and force the world around us to our wills with the right energy and application? It is possible that these very applications would be what some might call magic. It is also possible that these applications were once commonplace, and at the very least, it is obvious that they are now actively suppressed by the powers that be, as we have seen over and over again. One thing is for sure, though, you are in charge of how you apply your own energy and vibration, so wield it well. Friends, as always, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.